Yo, what's happening, guys? So it's been a minute since I made a Lords of the Fallen guide or video of any kind, and I figured this would be a good opportunity to do another one because yesterday I got the rest of the achievements that I needed to get back to 100% completion, which if you're not familiar, I can't remember when, maybe about a year ago, maybe more, they added, I think it was 9 new trophies related to New Game Plus, or more like the modifiers that they added to the game. And initially I did get 1 trophy, but then I didn't really do much with that afterwards, and I didn't really complete any games. It was just like the easiest trophy to get, which was to start a new game with the modifier active. And so I've been thinking about the modifiers themselves and the different trophies that you can get and the combination of modifiers. So I was like, you know what? I don't want to do a bunch of runs for each modifier. So I'll just turn on all the modifiers, which is what I have on right now. See, yeah, you can see that top right corner is, I just completed the run. So I just, I didn't start a new game. I'm back at Skyrest Bridge, and I figured it would be good to make a video just to give some general pointers and tips that I have after doing this run. So one thing that I should mention about this, which kind of gave me an unfair advantage, is if you go and take a look at my stats, I'm level 370, which I think is still possible, but I think the game doesn't let you go past 99 right now. Whereas before, there was this one glitch that you could do by going into somebody else's world and using the Rebirth Chrysalis item. So what you would do is go into somebody else's world and then use the respec menu from their world, not your world. And so it would give you basically it would just make it glitch out, and I think it's been patched. I just tested it with my alternative account, and I'm going to put it in I guess at some point in the video I'm going to show that it doesn't work anymore. But I could have sworn that I saw someone post on Reddit recently that you could still do it. But like right now, you can see that I have 359 respec points that I could use. And so before, the way that it worked is it would tell you whatever number of levels that you can respec. And then it would just, like I said, it would glitch out and you could go way past the points that you had. This one, I ended up with 359 from, I don't know, less than 100 points that I had for some reason. So that helped me out a lot. I mean, obviously there's stuff that you could do, like you could go, there's I forget what the subreddit is, but I'm pretty sure there's a subreddit where you could ask people to drop you items, and then you could just ask people to drop you a bunch of these skulls, for levels. I can't remember. I don't think there's a limit actually on the amount of skulls that you can carry. So theoretically, you could just have a ton, someone drop you like 1,000 or I don't know how many, 10,000 of these, of the one that's, I think the maximum amount is 6,500 if I remember correctly. And then you could just, level up everything to 99 or whatever stats that you need, right? So here I didn't have a plan for this because it just happened spontaneously before I even knew that it was a thing. So I just leveled up whatever things I thought were useful. So my vitality is like 110, which is only 10 levels past the limit, or I guess technically 11 levels. So, as far as that, it's not going to be that much of a difference because I think the hard cap is 40 or 60. So you don't really get a lot of HP past that point, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the The hard cap is maybe 60, 40 or 60, whatever it is. So it's going to be very small increments as opposed to the first 40 levels where you're going to see bigger increments. But it's still nice to just max out your HP. And then another thing is, like I said, I didn't have a plan for this, so I just leveled up whatever. And I ended up leveling up Endurance to 80, Vitality to 110, Radiance to 109, and Inferno at 70. Which, if I had a plan, if I had known that that was going to happen, I would have leveled up maybe Radiance and Inferno to the same level. So I would have about, I don't know, 90-ish for each instead of 109 and 70. But yeah, I mean, strength 34 is pretty good. Agility at 20 is okay. I'm not really using a lot of agility related stuff. I do have this bow that has agility, but it's mostly. So I guess I'm going to go into the tips, but I did want to have that parenthesis to kind of, not make it seem like it was just playing, a normal game, because I do have the advantage of my stats being a little bit higher, Vitality and Radiance being a little bit higher than they can be nowadays without the glitch that I had access to. But you could still, like I said, level up to 99 everything that you need, and it wouldn't be that much of a difference, honestly. So I would definitely say, pick one stat for damage. I just kind of went with Bloody Glory because it has A+ scaling in Radiance and D in Strength, so it felt like a good weapon for this run. And then, it's, I guess, nice to have the rest of the stuff, but definitely get Vitality up to 99 because mostly because of the mobs, not really for the bosses. The other thing that I would recommend is getting more defense. So the Pendant of Induration gives you more physical defense. I think it's 10%, if I remember correctly. And then the Dark Crusader's Convalescence gives you some health regen when you use the Sanguinarix. And then the Queen Verena II's Ring, which gives you health regen. And the health regen in this game is quite generous. And because of the modifiers, let's take a look. Because of the modifiers, the ones that are trickiest are the Withered Health and what is the other one? And the Tremendous Vestige Decay, right? So you're not going to have access to heals a lot. So any kind of health regen goes a long way. So I think this is when the trophies first dropped, or maybe close to that date. So yeah, it was like summer of 2024, and this is yesterday when I got all the trophies at once. So I just turned on all the modifiers on, and I would say honestly, the most difficult part, it wasn't really, like I said, the bosses are pretty easy, but certain parts of the map that have, because of the random enemies modifier, sometimes it would have really tricky combinations of enemies. Like I remember this one part in the Fitzroy had the lady with the flail and the cone head. I forget her name. But yeah, the lady that wears, where is the helmet? The Scourge Sister, I guess. So that enemy does like a shockwave attack that pushes you back, and I was close to a ledge and I almost died while in Umbral. So that was very tricky because usually there's just regular enemies, just like foot soldiers, right? And so that was very scary. And then in Bramis Castle, there were the little Umbral bat thingies. Those are very annoying, and it was, as you enter the castle and you have to kill the guy, what's his name? But the wizard guy that that has like you have to kill him to open up the places that are blocked by the red crystals. So he usually has some like, I don't know, some zombie enemies around him. And this time he was surrounded by the little umbral bats, and then there were also a lot of those zombies that spit fire. So the combination of those was extremely tricky and almost got me killed as well. Well, they killed me, and then while in Umbral, they almost killed me again. So that was very, very scary. That was like a very close call, and it was really infuriating because it was like almost at the end. So that was like, that could have been a run ender. So yeah, so health regen to counteract the withered health modifier. And then I would say, I mean, I did have some heavenly vials just in case. These were duped, so definitely try to dupe, items or have people drop you items before the run if you can. So I think I had like maybe 60 of these and I ended up using like 20. And then another thing is that you have access to the vestige seeds, which are pretty cheap. They're like from Mulhu. You can buy them for 1,500 vigor or whatever the currency is called. Yeah, it's called vigor. So definitely, stock up on those for the tremendous vestige decay modifier. I only had one, which actually I can show it here. I only have this one vestige, which was at I guess I can just show it. When I got to this place, I just kept this here because I was doing the ending, the empowered rune of a deer ending, where you have to go to all the beacons and use that rune to get the ending where there's basically no boss fight. And that's because I didn't want to go through the whole ordeal of doing the Umbral ending, because that there's a lot of quest lines that you have to do. And then I'd really, really dislike a deer's boss fight. To me, it's super annoying, the mechanics, and I really hate the exposition dump. I think it's just one of the worst things about the game. It's just really lazy and it just rubs me the wrong way. So I didn't want to do that ending, even though it would have been the easiest one, because that way I could have just cleansed each beacon as I defeated the main bosses. But this way I had to come back, right? So if you're doing this ending like I was, you have access to the Abbey's beacon and then the Tower of Penance's beacon, right? They're right there, both of them. And then you can just warp back to Sky. Oh, and then you have this. This is the only other vestige that you have in the game. So the Shrine of Adir, which if you need to get back to Calrath, or, I did use this to go back, to kind of backtrack to the Forsaken Fen to use the rune in that beacon. So, and you can do that in a few minutes. It's not that far. Or you can just do it from Sky Ridge if you have the shortcut to the Fitzroy. But yeah, that was easy because, all the other beacons are kind of accessible, like from Skyrest. So the one at the Upper Calrath, you can just access by backtracking from, this way, I guess, behind the door that opens behind, if you go further past Pieta's Arena, and then you can just backtrack that way. And the thing that I did was I left the Fief of the Chill Curse for last. So after I defeated the Sundered Monarch, so that way I could just go back with the rune, with the empowered rune, defeat the crow, the Hollow Crow, and then use the rune right there. So I didn't have to go back to the Fief. And that was pretty much it for the run. Like I said, the only challenging things for me personally were the withered health and the vestige decay because you don't have access to as many heals, but you can easily counteract that with some regen. And then for the damage, I just leaned into bloody glory because it just paired well with my stats. And what am I using for runes here? Yeah, so increase radiant scaling, and increase physical damage is what I used for runes on this guy. And another thing, before I forget, that I used was because sometimes I really had to make my heals count, and because of the withered healing, I would have to kind of heal if I only had like 1 or 2 heals left, and I still had like a bunch of map to get to before I could warp or do something so I could refresh my heals. I had a bow, and I would just shoot enemies from a distance so that I could get my health back, turn the withered health into actual health, from a distance. And so that was kind of a strat that I was using a lot, and it helped me really make use of my heals when I really needed them, so that I could fully heal instead of just, use a heal, get withered health, and then take damage, and then, you use your heal for nothing, and then you're in a bad position. So yeah, that was another thing that I would recommend you to do, run a bow. Because I had radiant scaling, I did run this guy when I needed it sometimes, but I mainly just used the bloody glory. What else? I don't think there's many more tips that I have. Yeah, just like I said, you could pretty much, the vestige decay, you can pretty much negate it by buying a bunch of umbral seeds. Is that what they're called? Vestige seeds. Yeah, you can just buy a bunch of those. I would use a few vestige mods to warp out of places, so buy some of those. And what's cool about this is they're cheap, and they're easily accessible from Mulhu. So yeah, there's really not a lot of other things that I would say are essential for the run. Just play it safe and be very mindful every time you enter a new area. If you're familiar with the game, for me, running around and not having the vestiges to warp into one place or another wasn't that big of a deal, because I really like the exploration, and I know the map really well, all the layouts for each of the maps. So that wasn't a big deal. I pretty much knew what route I needed to take, and I didn't go anywhere that was not required for progression. So I didn't go to the depths. I avoided that whole section. I kept it as straight a line as I could from beginning to ending, and I just kind of optimized the routing that way. But beyond that, yeah, just play it safe with if you're familiar with the game, with the tricky. Everybody knows there's super tricky, platforming areas like the Tower of Penance. That one, I took it super slow, and I just, each time that I went down a level, I would pick enemies off one by one with the bow, and because I knew that I've died so many times at that place, so I definitely was super careful during that whole section. Like, took it extra slow, and I was very methodically just killing enemies and making sure that there was no one that could mess with me, as I went down each level. So beyond that, there's obviously other, platforming areas that are a little tricky, but I think that one is the one that's more universally tricky. I think everybody has had a rough time at that place. So yeah, I hope this was helpful if you're trying to get any of these achievements. Honestly, it was a long time, because like I said, I just didn't want to do a bunch of runs, so it took a long time for me to finally get this done. It took over a year from when I first was trying to, see if I was going to do it or not. And then when I was like, okay, finally, I'll just do it. And yeah, tricky, but absolutely doable to turn on all the modifiers. Let me know in comments if you guys found this useful, and I will catch you on the next one.